So hello, everybody. Welcome first-timers to the Wayfinding series, and those of you who have been here before, welcome back to our 2019-2020 Wayfinding series. I'm Gretchen Schaefer, together with Tobias Fike. Wave at the lovely people. There he is. And Nicole Dale, our Director of Career and Alumni Services. We are very happy to offer this series to our entire community. So for those of you that are new to the Wayfinding series, the term wayfinding is a common term used primarily in graphic design and interior design, and it describes various design elements like signage and architecture that are used to orient and guide a person through a physical space. And so that's why the term wayfinding is such a perfect moniker for this series, in which local creative professionals share their personal navigation through a successful creative life and all the twists and turns involved in that journey. This series connects all of you to real creatives, real advice from real creatives. And we are so happy to kick off this year's series with J C Futrell. JC is a spoken word artist, hip-hop performer, husband, father, and educator. He is the executive director of education at Redline Contemporary Art Center in Denver. His dedication to assisting youth in Denver as a mentor and educator has been demonstrated through his work with the Denver Housing Authority, Blue Cross Blue Shield, the Urban League, the Downtown Aurora Visual Arts, and Art Street. As an artist himself, JC is a national poetry slam champion and has toured institutions of higher learning as one of the country's top spoken word artists. He is also the co-founder of the World Champion Slam Numa Poetry Venue. His work has been featured on National Public Radio, the Huffington Post, and PBS special, The American Graduate. He has been recognized with many awards, including the Distinguished African Americans Who Make a Difference Award by the Denver Urban Spectrum in 2016. He currently sits on the Denver Art Museum and Central Denver Public Library's Public Art Selection Panel Committee. Please give it up for J C Futrell. Come on up, JC.
Thanks. It's great to be here. First and foremost, can we have a round of applause for this series, the Wayfinding series, and everyone that put so much work into it, Gretchen and Tobias, yes? Yeah. And I want to give a shout out to RMCAD especially, too. We've got one of our amazing employees, actually, at Redline, Isaac, right now. Can you guys give Isaac a shout out? Yeah. He started off as an intern, and now he has earned his way into our fold. So he is an actual employee of Redline. If you guys are interested, you can talk to me a little bit later about an experience there. And also one of our resident artists, Tia Anthony. Don't go too far. Shout out to Tia. Yeah, in the building, in the house. All right. Cool. So, and I want to give one final shout out to my wife right here in the front who traveled. Who took the day off from work to come. Yes. We are 32 weeks pregnant today. Our baby girl is coming, so more artists in the world. Yeah, that's what we're doing. We're gonna overpopulate the world with artists, you know, right? And that's how we're gonna change everything and save the world, right? As you guys are coming in, feel free to grab a seat. There are a few up here. Empty seats make me really, really nervous, right? So I don't want to look around and kind of feel like I'm so alone, even though you've got a smile that'll keep me warm all day. That's awesome. Oh, thank you, sir. Yes, that is what I'm saying. Yeah, shout out to this guy right here. That is awesome. Yes, with his, what's that, cheddar broccoli soup? Man, you guys do it right here. Man, I've done many shows at many colleges. I don't think I've ever seen cheddar broccoli soup in the front row. That is awesome. All right, thanks, guys. With that being said, I've got a lot to get through today, and I know that we're slated for a Q&A session at the end, but what I want to do is if anything pops out to you guys and you want to ask me a question, feel free to just kind of like pop your hand up and then just blurt it out. We do have a microphone here that Gretchen will get you so the people at home or on their phones or through the streaming service can be able to hear your question. And because of that, I want to give a shout out. No one ever does this. I always do this to the sound guy. Give it up for Tim back there holding us down. Doesn't happen without tech, guys. Doesn't happen without tech. And so we'll talk about that too, because I've had quite an amazing journey as an artist and as a professional myself. And I want to share some stories with you guys about how I got to be in the position that I'm in right now, where I came from, and where I think I'm going too at the same time, because I don't think my career as an artist and as a professional is anywhere near being over. And I've got some huge aspirations, and I want to share those with you guys and talk about some of the paths that you may be able to take in order to get there. Is that cool? Yeah. But to start off, can I start off with some poetry? Is that cool? Yeah. If you guys have ever been to a slam before, you snap your, can you guys snap your fingers for me? Slam poetry is the culture and the community that I come from, and it's a very call and response kind of community. So if you guys hear anything that you really like, you can clap, you can snap, you could say, spit, poet, spit. Can we try that all on three to see if we can do that? Spit, poet, spit. Let's try that. 1, 2, 3. Spit, poet, spit. All right, that's dope. All right, cool. Thanks. So a few years ago, I was on tour, and I was sitting in my hotel room getting ready to do a show at a college, and I was on Facebook, and I got an instant message that popped up from someone who I was friends with but didn't really know all that well. And she was like, hey, do you have a few minutes for us to have a conversation? And I was like, sure, what's up? And she was like, well, I'm a poet myself, and sometimes I go to your page because you post poems on your page, and there's this particular poem that you wrote that I go back to every once in a while when I'm feeling kind of down. And I wanted to say thank you for writing it because you really spoke to me. And I said, thank you, that's awesome. Like, I really appreciate that. You know, that's why I write, is to connect. And I thought that was awesome. And then she said, well, can I tell you something weird now? Yeah, right, I had that face. I was like, oh, I don't know. That's how you get in trouble on the internet, right? And so I said, sure. I said, okay, sure, what's up? And she said, well, I'm in the military, and I'm getting ready to be deployed to Iraq. And I wanted to let you know that I'm taking your poem with me. Right, and that was my response. I was like, wow, that's awesome. I come from a military family. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. My grandfather was a Tuskegee Airman. Do you guys know who the Tuskegee Airmen were? First African Americans to fly planes. My grandfather did so in World War II. His name is John W. Mosley, right? And I come from him and from his legacy. And so I thanked her for her service. I thought that was awesome. And then she said, well, can I show you something weird now? Yeah, right, yeah, I know, right? Yeah, Tobias, see what I'm saying, right? So I was like, I don't know, right? That's how viruses happen. Yeah, and so I said, yeah, sure. And she sent me a link to a picture. And that picture was a picture of her left arm. And she had tattooed a stanza of my poem on her arm right before she was deployed. So this poem used to be called Dear Caterpillars and Tadpoles. But now it's a dedication to Sergeant Cassandra Faith Broadus, who was deployed to Iraq Tuesday, October 13th, 2009. Thanks. Dear caterpillars and tadpoles, I feel like you sometimes, all potential and hope, waiting for another day, another chance to prove that I am more than mistakes and flesh, clumsy and common, a pedestrian in a dream world. Dear caterpillar, it's probably better off that you are blind. You can't be tortured by your own reflection. Your stubby limbs and drum-shaped head make you an eyesore. You are a far cry from the winged creatures you will one day become. The gliding crayons, the cherubs of fields and forests. You are slow and forgotten, caterpillar. Tell me, do you spin those silken walls to hide yourself from those bigoted eyes that find you unsightly? How does it feel to be a vessel, a means to an end? Do you see yourself as cosmic gift wrapping, like a prelude to better things like rebirth and spring and growth? You are a reminder to us that the road to all things free and beautiful is often hard and ugly. Dear tadpole, no legs, no fins, trapped somewhere just beneath the surface. Tell me, do you dream of walking? Do you have revelations of dancing? Right foot over left foot for the world to share in your rhythm? Do you feel caged in your own skin? If you could, you would claw your way out. Does it hurt to grow those arms? But do you do it to climb? Does the bottom mock you? Do you feel like if you do not grab hold of the very sky itself, no one will pull you upright? Dear tadpole, stand as the rest of the world pushes you back down. Be a dreamer. Do what they say can't be done. Then do it again, because you can. Dear caterpillar, grow legs, grow wings, blossom a rose garden on your back and take to the sky. Set the heavens ablaze with reds, blues, and greens. Shed your shell by your shadow. Drop the ugly from your hide. Like dusk drops sunlight from its shoulder blades. Dear caterpillars, dear tadpoles, transform into something beautiful, because the ugly inside of me needs to know that I can change too. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thanks. Oh, wow. Thank you. All right. So I've been blessed enough to be able to tour all around the country and the globe. I'm performing my poetry, and my poetry comes from this need to look at my childhood and to look at my adulthood and kind of find the in-between between like where I feel like I had my imagination, encouraged my imagination, used my imagination, and then ultimately am losing my imagination, right? The world becomes harsh and colorless, you know. But as artists, we can bring that back into the world. And so that's what I'm here to talk to you guys about today. Thanks again for the opportunity. I'm going to go ahead and start flipping through some slides here. This shot was taken from a TEDx event. I have both performed and hosted two separate TEDx events here in the state of Colorado. This one was from TEDx CSU. And that was an amazing experience because I got an opportunity to really be able to examine myself in a way that I hadn't been able to before in front of a live audience. And I find that to be able to heal through using art, at least in my experience, has come from exposing myself to as many people as I possibly can. Can I tell you guys a little secret about myself? I am, and you have to not tell anybody, especially you guys at home and on your phones and stuff. I am deathly afraid of large crowds. So much so that before I ever perform or speak in front of people, I have to throw up a little bit, just a little bit. So I never eat before I have to get up in front of people. And through that, I find that I am expelling something that has been in me that I've held back over the years, and that is my true self, right? I, as a young person, was sexually abused by my babysitter when I was a child, and I have been struggling with that through therapy for years. And it was this TEDx event that I was able to say that publicly and out loud for the first time. And it was a blessing to be able to do that. Through that, I still get messages to this day on social media from people who thank me for being able to be that brave as an African-American male. That is just something that we don't see every day. And so I've been blessed enough to be able to use my art to help others be able to heal and address certain issues that they've had trouble with over the years. Okay. I also have been blessed enough to be a teacher and instructor here in Denver, to give you guys kind of a pathway as to how I came to be. I was born and raised in New York. My father, who's a piece of shit, I can say that, right? Cool. All right, piece of shit. Shoe fit, exactly, right? Exactly. But is a phenomenal artist in his own like. And as a young man, growing up in New York, he rented out a studio that used to belong to Romare Bearden. You guys know who Romare Bearden was? Harlem Renaissance. Invented photo montage. So the idea of taking like photos, magazine clippings, pasting them down on a canvas, and then painting over that. That didn't become a style until Romare Bearden did it. And so my father had a studio where his old studio in Harlem was. And so like as a kid, I grew up in this studio and around artists. But didn't really grow an appreciation for art because my dad never gave a shit about my artwork. You know, and I was always trying to impress him by like this is the 80s. I'm old, all right? So as a kid, like, I'm drawing, like, Thundercats, and Transformers, right? And, like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. And, like, Smurfs and, like, whatever was, like, cool at the time, right? And I had my little black book. I hung out with a couple graffiti crews, and I had my own little black book, and I would tag things up sometimes. And we'll talk about that in a little bit because, that has now evolved into muraling. And, oh, my God, we're talking about money. And so, like, as a kid, that's what I did, and I was always trying to impress him, but, like, he couldn't care less. And if anything, that pushed me to be an even better artist, at least in my own brain, And so I grew up with markers, with Sharpies and Bic pens, and mechanical pencils, which are still my favorite to this day, And so that's what I draw with consistently. And through that, this appreciation for art led me to want to go to school for art, much like you guys, right? And at first, I wanted to be an animator for Disney Studios. I wanted to work on The Little Mermaid. I wanted to work on, Aladdin. Like, that was, like, my big goal. But as I was in school and in college, a lot of opportunities came up to be out in the community, and we're going to talk about this. To go to schools and to work with students in after-school programs and to work with other like academies that used the arts to really connect with kids who maybe had some issues. And I don't like using the word like at risk or opportunity youth or any of that. They're kids, right? Kids are kids. Right? And so when you guys go out into the world and you're doing these programs and they say, go work with these wayward teens and blah, 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 that is such an outdated, because we're all cut from the same shit. We may come from different places, right? But end of the day, I think that once we start labeling, especially youth, in that way, we are setting them up for failure, right? As soon as we say, oh man, you're at risk. So already in my head, I'm like, man, you may or may not make it out of here. Right? So what kind of energy am I going to put in you? Right? If we see these kids for who and what they are, our sons, our daughters, our nieces, our nephews, right? Then maybe we'll have a chance. Maybe we'll have a shot. And so with that being said, I found this organization through my grandparents called the Downtown Aurora Visual Arts. And as a 15-year-old kid, I was given a mural project that I knew nothing about. I had no idea how to do murals at all, and this was a project that had a pretty large budget and other artists that were going to be working on this particular project with me as a 15-year-old kid. And it wasn't a painted mural project. It was a tile and cement muraling project at 15 years old, right? So, and back then there was no YouTube. I couldn't just watch like a YouTube to figure out like how to do that, right? You know what I mean? I couldn't just like, you know what I'm saying? Because like right now you can YouTube anything, right? Like if you want to be like, a mason, you could like, oh man, YouTube, that's cool. I can do that, right? If you wanted to like learn how to like, code and all that, YouTube, whatever. No, back then I had to go to the library, okay? Like we are in right now, right? And I had to use what's called microfiche. You guys remember it? No, you're too young. You have no idea what that is. I'm sorry. I'm dating myself. But with that being said, I had an opportunity to work with a local artist by the name of Daryl Anderson. And if you guys don't know who Daryl Anderson is, he's an African-American artist who is responsible for quite a few of the tile murals in DIA. And he's also done much international work as well. And I was also able to work with one of my mentors in Carlos Fresquez, who is an amazing artist himself and a professor over at Metro State University of Denver. And so with these icons of color around me, I was able to see that I could do that too. I could do this, right? And they were encouraging and they pushed me in the right direction, and I was able to see something in myself that I may not have seen before them, which is adults looking at me as an artist, right? And I couldn't turn away after that. After that, that was it. So that mural is still up to this day. It's on the corner of Colfax and Emporia. And there's a nice little plaque there that talks about the Downtown Aurora Visual Arts and my grandmother, Edna Mosley, who was the first person of color elected to the Aurora City Council. So she was very much a revolutionary and a progressive, just like my grandfather as well. Both of them were very powerful people. And so when we moved here from New York, I lived underneath their roof. And they gave me all of these opportunities to be able to work with young people. And with that being said, I want to show you an example of maybe of something that I've done with young people here in Denver. project, and you'll have your stuff up on a billboard or on light rail on a bus station or whatever. There's just immediately, you see like the light go up, and all the kids here have had an extraordinary buy-in, and they've worked arduously to make sure that this project went without a hitch. So today, we got here pretty early, got our banners all hung up. We had spent a couple of days sketching out all of the artwork, got all geared up, ready to go. We grabbed some spray cans and just started filling in some color.
I'm excited for it to be like on billboards. That's like pretty dope. Yeah, I like it.
Like a billboard, like it's really big. And people are gonna see it, a lot of people. Wow, it's a really great feeling.
Had many unique experiences with Art Street. Every day is like watching a star explode. Our kids create constantly. It literally is watching a kid discover something new.
Kind of excited, a little nervous. Everyone likes it or not. Yeah, my mom's very excited.
Honestly, having my art featured out there and, like out in the world makes me like super proud. That's my work. That's me, it's my personality.
We still live in an age where, art is kind of frowned upon as far as being able to provide for yourself and pay your bills. But when we have a large project like this pop up and clients actually taking an invested interest in what we're doing, and all the sketches that they do in their notebooks, all of the doodles that they do can actually come to life and keep them fed and keep the lights on and go to school for that kind of thing and go to college for that. Like it means the world for me, and just from what I see, I think it makes a visceral difference in how the kids produce their artwork.
First Bank could totally have like some generic art committee that makes not good stuff, but instead chose to reach out to real artists, and not only real artists, but like up and coming like teenage artists.
Believe in yourself even if other people are not believing in you. So you can show them that no matter what, that you kept going, and to show them that you can do it by yourself, and it doesn't matter what they think or what they say to you.
Oh, yeah, you guys can clap for that. Yeah, sure, yeah. Yeah, that was an amazing project that we were able to do with First Bank, and a lot of those pieces are still up around the city. That was about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago we did that project, and some of those billboards got reproduced and are even at DIA to this day as well. And so with that being said, working with young people that have felt as if the world hasn't given them a fair shot gives you an added sense of purpose when you are in front of them and they are looking to you for guidance. And I think that makes a big difference. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what community means to us as artists as we go on. I want to talk a little bit about teaching. Can you run this video real quick? I think it kind of speaks for itself. Loading.
He looks at you, you may not even have seen him before, you just get a good vibe. You just know that whatever he's doing, you want to be around that.
One of the most positive people I've ever met. He has a zeal for helping people.
He's my mentor, first of all. He's a tutor because he's the person I go to when I need my homework done, my math homework.
He interacts. I think when you interact, that takes it to another level.
Matching people up with other people and networking. He's just really amazing at what he does. I'm blessed to have found him.
My name is Jean-Claude Futrell. I am the job developer and instructor for the Youth Employment Academy at the Denver Housing Authority. As an instructor and job developer involves working with youth between the ages of 16 to 24 every day to help them meet their educational and their academic goals. In the morning, I run a GED tutorial that I also have some college students come over as well. And then I have an afternoon GED course. but I also do job development. So that means I go out into the community and I find employers that are willing to take young people on, some of them for their first work experience ever.
They don't know much of anything, you know, picking up a rag, picking up a mop, or just interacting with people, it's really hard for them to do.
In my business, we have a really hard time finding employees. There's no school for what we do. We train everybody in-house.
I didn't have any experience. Day one internship. Wow. It was totally different because I had no idea what they did here.
Mo is a great asset to my staff. We found him through JC at the Youth Employment Academy, and he started off as an intern.
I've been working at Ink Monster for 2 years now.
He moved up from intern to junior production. Now he's one of our lead production guys. He's training other employees as well.
Life isn't easy, and not all of us are given the same tools. Our program, we generally deal with kids who are looking for a second chance.
I love when JC sends me someone who's never been to a Boys and Girls Club. And then when you have about 160 kids down there, it's a lot to take in. And then all of a sudden they fall in love with it.
There needs to be more people like JC in this world.
That's that person that you want to get into that bubble. You want to be surrounded around him.
I was drawn to social services and civic duty through my grandparents, both of which spent years doing the best that they could to make sure that youth in Denver were taken care of and weren't forgotten. And them reminding me that we're only as good as the work that we put back into the world. And making sure that other people are as well taken care of as we are. That if we have the ability to give back, that we do. And I learned that at a very young age, and I've never forgotten the lessons that they've taught me.
He just brings that kind of volume, you know, he's an angel. You know, he's definitely, I always say that to a lot of folks that come around and help out our kids. He's just an angel, you know, he's somebody special.
Oh, thanks, yeah. It's a little weird hearing someone call you an angel. You know, I mean, I love that. I love the content of like that video, but it's like, oh my God, angel. Oh, it's hard to live up to. With that being said, I do want to talk a little bit about the young man that you saw in that video by the name of Mohammed Zuamingi. Mohammed came to this country about 8 years ago without any living relatives and family. And when he came to our program, he was in need of opportunity. And he was an artist. And I was able to connect him with a friend of mine, Reed Silberman, who is the founder and CEO of Ink Monster. Do you guys know Ink Monster? Custom design and print? Okay, cool. He's a good friend of mine, and I said, hey, look, I've got this great kid who would be amazing to have an internship over there. And we set it up. Mohammed was able to complete that internship and then was offered a job, but he doesn't have American citizenship. And so in order to gain his citizenship, Ink Monster is now sponsoring him, because that's the only way he can stay in this country. To work for Ink Monster for, I think he has another year left before then he can take the citizenship test and become a citizen himself. And so outside of using art to further ourselves economically, this is something that is going to change this young man's life and then his family from now on. And I have to give a shout out to Ink Monster because that's just an amazing story and one of those things that, wow, that's what art does? Like the kind of things that start clicking with us. And then also the homie Julio too, who runs the oldest Boys and Girls Club here in the city, being able to send him young people to work over there through art. And so I always use art and poetry to access young people, to be able to bring them into this 21st century of whatever it is that we're doing right now with technology and development and moving forward. And it's really interesting because it kind of seems like there are chunks and niches sliced out for a specific part of the population to be able to achieve when the rest of us are still struggling. And so we can find our way in if we know where to look. And that's what I'm excited about today. As a teacher, I've had the opportunity to do a lot of different things, including run an advanced manufacturing and tech class, and I'm not that good at coding and stuff like that. But I learned it so that I could teach it, you know. And so I created a pathway when there wasn't one before, and through that I had to go and look for funding. And being able to find funding in this city, to be 100% honest, is not that difficult. there are a lot of opportunities. There are larger cities in this country that you'd think would have more access to money for the arts than, say, little old Denver, but not true. We have tons of access to be able to fund projects, especially to work with young people, especially to work in the schools, especially to use art to make a difference here. Right now, the city is spending millions of dollars on public works of art. The commission that I sit on for the Denver Art Museum and the Denver Public Library has a huge budget right now. I can't tell you how much the budget is, but has a huge budget right now to redevelop the area around Civic Center Park. And we're going to be looking for artists to be able to submit ideas about what you would do in order to improve the area over there, to make it more accessible for families, for tourists, for individuals who are looking to build art and community here in Denver. And so here are just a few photos of some kids that I've worked with over the years in some of the classrooms that I've been in. Poetry. I started off with a poem, and I want to be like really judicious with my time. This poem that I've got here is really interesting. It kind of catapulted me into a place that I never thought was possible. I found slam poetry back in 2004 by accident. I was going through a tough time, and I wanted to be around like-minded artists. I wanted to hear something that would inspire me. I've been a hip-hop artist in this city since I was like 17 years old, and I've performed in a lot of different places. We'll talk about that. But I wanted to hear some poetry, something that would uplift me. So where did I go? Mercury Cafe on a Sunday night, right? You guys know the Mercury Cafe? All right, okay, cool. Oldest vegan restaurant in the city, and also the longest open mic. Mercury Cafe has got the longest running open mic, 21st in California, for those of you guys looking for poetry. And so I wandered in there one night, and this was a night when the Mercury Cafe slam team was away competing for a national title. And I didn't know what slam poetry was. Like, slam poetry, what is that, And so I sat in the audience and I watched what happened throughout the night. There was an open mic. There was the jam before the slam, right, where any artist can get up and just spit some poems over a live band. And then there was the slam. The slam poetry is a competitive form of poetry. You've got a poet that gets up in front of an audience and spits an original piece of poetry within 3 minutes or less. And slam poetry was invented in the 1980s by a construction worker by the name of Mark Smith. Ooh, none of you guys have been to a slam? When I say Mark Smith's name, you guys are supposed to yell out, "So what?" All right, is that cool? Can we try that one more time? Slam poetry was invented in the 1980s by a construction worker by the name of Mark Smith. So what? All right, and he was tired of going to boring poetry slams and hearing the same poets say, like, roses are red, violets are blue, whatever, blah, 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 right? He wanted poets to speak from the gut, right? So he invented this competition where poets could talk about anything, social justice issues, identity issues, right? Culture, things that were kind of taboo, except for, the beat movement. The beat movement really pushed that. Denver has a huge history in the beat movement, right? We had Kerouac and Bukowski, right? Matter of fact, Kerouac stayed in the Rossonian at one point. And we'll talk about that a little bit later because I'm working with the Rossonian right now. We'll talk about future projects in a second. But I found this thing called slam poetry, and I fell in love on that very first night listening to poets talk about things that I never thought that they could talk about. So then I decided to compete. And from that, I ended up being on a slam team. And then I went off to compete for a national title and ended up becoming a national poetry slam champion with the Mercury Cafe team and a bunch of other awesome poets. And then from there, I was like, whoa, Denver's got a lot of poets. We need another slam. So we created another slam, right? And my half-sister, Ashara Ekundayu, had an event called Cafe Nuba. It's hot and it's black. That's another thing. All right, okay, cool. So when I say Cafe Nuba, y'all supposed to say it's hot and it's black, okay? And I know that you guys can't see the audience here. The audience is not really hot and black. You guys are hot, though. You guys are hot, yes, okay, cool. But when I say Cafe Nuba, can you guys say, like, it's hot and it's black? Is that cool? Okay, Cafe Nuba. Okay, that's awesome, cool. And so we turned Cafe Nuba into a slam, and that slam is called Slam Nuba. That also has a call and response thing. It's we cut heads, but that's going to take a while for us all to get coordinated, so that's cool. With that being said, I was able to then tour. And through touring, I was able to get my word out and my poetry out to thousands of people. And an agent approached me and another poet friend of mine, and we were able to get signed on to an agency and book college tours, because that's where the money was, right? And so my friend and I, about 15 years ago, really pushed and opened up doors for performance poets to go on the collegiate circuit and make money, right? Before that, I was used to like rocking in at a coffee shop, you know, for like $50 and like, you know, a tab. You know what I mean? Like it's cool, right? Yeah, I'll do it for a latte and like, you know, gas money. That's cool. Yeah, right. But then after getting an agent and then touring around the country, wow, we're charging like $5 grand for the two of us to be able to go up there and spit poems for 45 minutes. So I quit my job. I love kids, but damn, right? And so with that being said, I toured for about 6 years strong on the road. And going back and looking at my taxes, myself being able to make about $250,000 off of poetry. Oh, I know, right? And this poem that I've got up here, and I won't play this because I've got other material that I've got to go to. This poem is called Scott. A lot of the poems that I write about are about people that I know and things that I've done and places that I've been. Scott was a friend of mine when I was a kid, and he always used to want to play football with us on Sundays in the park. And if we didn't play by his rules, he would always yell out, "I'm taking my ball and I'm going home." And he would take his ball, because it would be his ball, and then he would go home. And then there'd be like 30 kids out in the park just like, well, fuck, what do we do now? Right? You know what I'm saying? And so, but with that, Scott just wanted people to like listen to him and feel important, you know, like we all do. And Scott was a cool kid, you know. He was the first kid on our block to have a Nintendo entertainment system, you know. And some kids used him for that. They didn't really like him, but they liked his Nintendo, you know. So they'd come and hang out with him sometimes. Yeah, Scott was a friend. He had a drinking problem in high school, and never really got over that. And Scott's no longer with us anymore. You know, he left us a few years ago. And so I wrote this poem as a tribute to him. And I wish he was still here. I talk to his brother every once in a while. It's kind of difficult. But this poem helped me kind of understand why it is that I work so hard to help others have a voice too, because I realized that at one point I felt voiceless too. And the people that I associated myself with, my friends, also felt like they were voiceless. And that's why I work with the people that I work with. So this poem's called Scott. If you get a chance, go to the YouTubes and click on it. Bless you. You know, because my agent did such an amazing job in promoting me years ago, this poem is taught in 12 different countries as an introduction to slam poetry in both high school and the collegiate level. And it's kind of fun because every once in a while I'll get like a video or an email from someone in a class saying like, "Is that you?" Like, you know, like whatever. Like, yeah, you know, and it'd be like in German or something, you know, and I'd be like, "Oh man, that's badass." You know what I'm saying? It's pretty cool. But this poem at one point was the #1 poem on YouTube for slam poetry. And it was, you know, so long ago that now like it's way down the list because like everybody's like a slam poet now. And, like and YouTube has exploded and social media has. But if you get a chance, check out Scott. Slam poetry and slam nuba. I do want to play this poem for you because collaboration is also very important when you're looking at how to impact people and use art. You want to surround yourself by like-minded artists, amazing artists. The artists that you see up here on this stage with me are some amazing poets in their own right. You've got Theo Luciferi Wilson. Do you guys know Luciferi, Theo Wilson? He made international news last year where he did something like the movie Black Klansman. Have you guys seen the movie Black Klansman? You know that? So he went online and pretended to be a white Aryan just to see what white Aryans say. And then like kind of like broadcast that like on his own Facebook page, and it blew up, you know. And then Black Klansman came out, and so like he's been interviewed by like CNN and blah blah blah. So he's a very accomplished artist in and of his own right. That's Jay Harris. She is a filmmaker in Atlanta and a really dear friend. That's me right there, and that right there is Bobby Lefebvre. Do you guys know who Bobby Lefebvre is? No? Yes? No? Well, you should. Yeah, snap, please. Okay, Bobby Lefebvre, so you all know, is the first person of color and the youngest poet laureate for the state of Colorado. Yes. Yeah, Isaac, yes, Isaac knows. Yes, Isaac knows. Yes, absolutely, yes. And this is my dear friend, and we started Slam Nuba together. And so if you can see the power of these poets up here, it'll kind of give you some insight. So please, play this poem. This particular poem is what we call Youth, and we all wrote it together about
My grandmother speaks like she has a gun in her lap. She has the hands of sharecroppers and the pride of a Pullman porter. She got a Jim Crow education in a one-room schoolhouse, played hide and seek underneath trees that hung black bodies. She sold Christmas wreaths made of wire, coat hanger, and spruce to the good white folks while Birmingham burned. She raised babies to crawl, stand and walk upright, look a man in the eye, and
trust only what you can touch.
She speaks in bullets, taught me that there is power in books and that in order to find yourself, you have to get lost first.
That she sits on a porch with a gun in her lap, chair rocking back and forth and back. She is royalty as she reigns her throne, weathered from the time second-hand clothes torn, and through her, I am born. The seed of her seed, the growth of her nurture.
Her blood I will bleed. She is the light that shines through me, and I am her voice when she cannot speak.
Francisquita Socorro Garcia Zuniga. Her father was from Spain. Her mother half Mexican, half Apache. Of 6 children, she's the last to survive. And this strong Spanish woman taught me the meaning of black pride.
My grandmama grabs the steel of the stove handle, cocks back her rubber and shoots buttered biscuits through my depression. Ricocheting through my childhood and leaving smoking holes through my dreams today. What does everlasting forgiveness taste like? It's like sunrise in a Brooklyn kitchen, breakfast still fresh in the air. Where a boy talks to his reflection in a pair of reading glasses.
That still where a woman's eyes who have already pardoned him for sins he isn't yet wise enough to commit.
Because she's given life. The family secret is that she's taking it. The elders don't look her in her eyes for too long. Her anger doesn't raise her voice, it drops the room temperature and freezes grown folks in the place where they stay.
My grandmother speaks like she has a gun in her lap. Curses at the top of her lungs in Spanish. The sound of her accent rings as loud in my head as La Olla whistles when frijoles steam in her kitchen. Mother of 8, grandmother of 11, when she speaks, we listen. She has a saying for every occasion, like, lo que en los libros no está, la vida te enseñará. What books do not teach you, life will. And there are lessons embedded deep within the weathered wrinkles of her face.
She doesn't have to speak to tell stories.
Her straws are evidence that she has passed the test of survival.
She forecasts foresight back into my eyes, and she takes her hands off the trigger and rested in mine.
While her bones are under attack by
time.
My grandmother has the spinal column of a coal miner. Walks like everywhere leads home. Her lips speak battleship symphonies and stands like a deacon.
She's no stranger to tears. She still makes the sign of the cross when passing by Catholic churches, even after 1 million unanswered prayers.
Her dedication has taught me faith. My grandmother speaks like she has a gun in her lap.
Fearless and confident.
Steadfast and wise. She says speak with your own voice and get spoken for.
So hot shotgun shells underneath my
Her
tongue.
fingers smell like gunpowder, and that's why her hands remind us of the 4th of July.
So I pick up the gun
for her in my bare hands.
That look just like her.
She is the reason I can.
She is the reason I am.
If you guys get a chance, Bobby Lefebvre's play, Northside, is going to be playing, I believe, this weekend for the last time, and it has sold out everywhere. So I love promoting my friend, with that being said. here are some just tour dates. I was going through like, oh man, what did I do as like a traveling poet? Like here's some places that I was in the winter of 2013. All right, so like you could see like the central part of the country loves me for some reason. Like we super booked out in like, you know, places like Iowa and Illinois and Wisconsin. And like, so I've been all over. I've actually performed in 48 out of the 50 states. Never got an opportunity to perform in Alaska, never got a chance to perform in Hawaii, but I will change that. All right. Speaking engagements, through this, I've been able to live my dream. For the past 5 years, I've run panels at Denver Comic-Con with spoken word and poetry. So my panel is called So You Think You Can Write Nerd Poetry. So next time you guys are at Denver Comic-Con, check me out. I also am starting to run panels at the Indigenous Pop X, which is Comic-Con for Native and indigenous peoples. They just had the first one at the McNichols building this year, and it's coming back next year to Denver. So keep an eye out for that. Representation matters. Get paid what you are worth and invest back into your community. If you guys are here to learn from me, that is #1 on my list as far as what you need to do as artists to be able to thrive. Especially if things like social justice, especially if things like equality, if access means diversity, if those things mean anything to you. You know, in the work that we do in nonprofit work, we usually say that we're doing like DIE work, right? Like DIE work, right? Diversity, right? Inclusion, right? And equity. Wow, that's kind of terrible. Like those letters make that acronym, right? So you know what Redline does? We throw an A in there for access. And then what does it spell? Idea. Thank you, Isaac. Isaac, that's why you work for us. Idea work. So in that idea work, push yourself, be an artist, be a little greedy sometimes. Ask for the money that you think that you are worth. Then take that money and invest it back, all right? Hip hop. I wanted to show you guys a couple of my videos and stuff. I'm running a little bit short on time, but I've been blessed enough to work with amazing artists from all over the city and perform at some of the largest venues this state has to offer. I've performed at Red Rocks. I've performed at Cervantes. I've performed at the Fillmore and the Ogden. I know all those sound guys too, and they're not as good as Tim. All right, you know what I'm saying? Cool. And so collaboration is also important too. Both of these projects that you're looking at right now, this music video from a project that I did called Jiggy Thompson was actually filmed, and the video was produced by Thomas Evans, who goes by I Am Detour. You guys know him, who does murals all across the city, big colored faces, awesome stuff. Look up I Am Detour. That has to do with building community that I'll get to here in a second. Also, this other project that I did with him and a friend of mine named Mikey Fresh was sponsored by Red Bull. And so for the region that we're in the southwest region of the United States, I am considered a Red Bull influencer. Which is awesome. Which means they send me free cases of Red Bull from time to time, and I do events for them. This is kind of what happens. No, seriously. But I have done shows, and there was a particular show called Red Bull Presents Synesthesia a couple years back that included like art and music and community work all together. So check that out. I did that project with Thomas Evans. Painting murals and stuff. I love painting. It's what I went to school for. I got my degree in fine arts and in African American studies and history. And so I paint all over town. At Redline, where I work, I'm able to work with amazing artists every day. These are 2 artists from our community studio. And we just got done literally last week completing a mural at Sassafras on Colfax. You guys ever eat there? Yeah, Sassafras right there, a couple blocks away from the state capitol. So if you ever go eat there, go in the back now. There used to be like this really dark, like mural back there. We went back in there and we lit it all up. So it looks awesome now. So I love painting. I still make decent money showing my work too. I've got some of my paintings showing up at the Whittier Cafe right now that my wife helped me hang on Saturday. Thank you. You're awesome. Lend your artistic abilities to the community you work and live in. I wouldn't be able to do anything that I've done without focusing on community first. When I lived and worked in Aurora as a kid, I helped build a lot of programs out there and did a lot of public works of art, which led me to then do the same thing in the communities where my grandfather and my grandmother grew up in. So now I work in 5 Points, where my grandparents are from, and the work that we're doing right now is extraordinary over there. And I'm telling you that when you do that, you get an added sense of accomplishment, and also it helps you build up what your tribe will look like. Everybody wants to be a famous artist, but nobody wants to put the work in, right? You know, you gotta start at home. If you start at home and build up your base from there, then you get to go and do all the international stuff and blah, blah, blah. Not everybody can be an American Idol, you know? I wanted to be, kind of sucks. But if you do the hard work and the groundwork and work your way up, you will find that it is much more rewarding and much more successful because you will build community in the same light. The networking matters, okay? And through that, they still live. Here's yet another project I've worked with Thomas Evans. Are you guys seeing a kind of a pattern here? You know, so I kind of like, I figure like I can be cooler if I like hang out with people cooler than me, right? You see what I'm saying? So like I always attach myself to artists that I feel like are way out of my league. You know what I'm saying? Like that they are doing absolutely incredible things. And that's Thomas Evans. And he did a project a few years ago where he took African-American artists in the city and he did DNA testing with them and took all of the artists and did photo shoots with them using African masks. And we were asked to pick masks from a large collection, from Paul Hamilton's collection. Shout out to Paul Hamilton, on the board of directors for Redline Contemporary Arts Center, and an amazing man himself. And he has an incredible collection of African artifacts in his home that he opens up to the public as a museum. And so we were asked to like take pieces from his collection, do the photo shoot, and then kind of guess where our African heritage comes from. And then during the opening of this show, which included photography and painting and such, all at Redline, and Tia Anthony was actually one of the photographers in that project, our DNA would be revealed to the public. And so my heritage was revealed to the public at the same time that I found out, you know, and it turns out I'm black. It's fantastic, right? But specifically Nigerian, you know, and I did not know that. And that project was incredible. But you see the capacity being built. You saw the Red Bull project, you know, that I did with Thomas. You saw the music video that he produced. And then you see this. And that led us into some other amazing things. Ancestry.com actually sponsored that particular project. Can we play that video real quick? It's a real quick one.
I've always been an artist. I got this opportunity to visit Africa. That kind of sparked my interest into learning about my ancestry. When I came back to America, that's when I took the ancestry DNA test, and it was like, okay, where am I from? When I got back my ancestry test, I saw that I was like mainly Cameroon, Congo. I was also Ivory Coast, Ghana region. Knowing about my lineage and knowing about other people's lineage and how they kind of connect. This is now how I view the world through my art and through everyday life. And that kind of sparked a conversation. And then we decided to do a photography show. And all of the models had their background that they got from Ancestry revealed at the show.
It was amazing because we were paired up with Paul Hamilton with his collection of African art and artifacts.
When people come over to my place, first of all, I tell them to relax. They cannot see it all because there's just too much.
The They Still Live project is a project where we take these masks, these African artifacts outside of their, usual context, and take a lot of these African Americans in the community, a lot of my friends, test their lineage with Ancestry DNA, and just do a photography project with it. Because as African Americans, we still have some of that DNA within us. We want to show it visually.
Why do you think it's really important for people to connect with their roots and find out about where they come from?
Well, it's sort of like you're a tree. If you don't have any roots and the wind blows, you kind of fall over.
I honestly didn't have any real idea what my percentages were going to be before doing this experience. And coming back and finding that a majority of my DNA comes from Nigeria was amazing.
For me, it was a community project in many ways. So when people were learning about themselves, you saw other people learning about themselves as well. It helps bridge a gap between us as people, and it kind of helps you just learn more about what's in your community.
They Still Live was an amazing experience that is still living within me. Having that knowledge has definitely empowered me, and it's living in me so much that we are expanding it to 40 youth that are at risk of gang involvement. We have a mask making project where the kids are going to create a mask based on how they see themselves now, and then after 3 months of the project we're going to do masks again to see how they view themselves after their DNA has been tested. Because we feel that if you understand where you've come from, then the negative things that we put with ourselves every day in order to get by, we can chip away at them if we truly have a unique understanding of each other's experiences and what that really means.
Anytime you get exposed to art, like African art, then that opens up your possibility.
Everyone has a story, everyone has this background that they can shine a light on, and I want to try to give that to everybody, and this was really a unique way of doing it. At the end of the day, I want my work to kind of change the way people think. I want them to leave and say, what else can I apply this to? What else can change in my daily life?
Cool. So through that project, oh, you can clap real quick. Sure. Through that project, I want to say never be afraid to say yes. Because of that project inspiring me, we went and did the exact same thing with kids in Denver and tested their DNA. And we were able to get Ancestry to sponsor it. And we were able to give them job training while they were doing it and expose them to different types of cultures that they may not have known anything about. We went on field trips and we taught them photography and we taught them how to use like social media for positive things at the same time. And that turned into what we call the We Still Live project. So you can check that out online as well if you're interested. We did everything from cultural and community exploration through mask making. We did community wealth building and impact. And we did it all at Redline Contemporary Arts Center. And that's where I am right now. Yeah, Isaac, there we go. Yeah. And that's where my path has led me to this day, and where I see myself moving forward is doing more things in public art projects, especially with youth here in Denver, to really have a long-lasting impact. What I've really seen through murals, which is really interesting, is that these murals that are going up around our city are generating hundreds of thousands of dollars for artists, right? And it's really kind of edged out like the street art community, right? The graph artists that kind of made it cool in the first place to do this kind of stuff. But what I've noticed with a lot of artists of color, what they've been doing lately is they've been making murals and images of everyday people. Instead of like doing these big images of like, the Martin Luther Kings and the Malcolm X's and that and this, that, and the next, they're taking kids out of the community and putting them on huge walls. And I think that is very interesting because even as people are economically being edged out, there's an imprint being left because of these cool art projects that are going up. And so representation matters, and I want us to all kind of reflect on that. My last words for you guys are really positive. I just want you guys to don't be afraid to say yes to a project. Don't be afraid to say yes to opportunity. Don't be afraid to say yes to working with young people. And I think that's my time for today. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, JC.
You're very welcome.
I know you all have to head out. I just want to remind everybody about some of the events we have coming up. And then also, if you don't have to run right to class, JC is going to stick around for a few more minutes if you have questions and stuff. So please stick around. Our next Wayfinding series event, we're going to host our very own Foundations faculty member, Carissa Samaningo-Saxton, is going to be presenting about her work on September 26th back here in the library. And then tonight, you all definitely, if you're not already registered, be sure to join the Office of Student Life for the Clifford Still Mixer. This is an annual event that we do. It's super fun way to get kind of behind the scenes look at one of the most important art institutions, art and design institutions of the city. And it's a really cool way to meet RMCAD students. So please join us. That's tonight at the Clifford Still from 7 to 9. And we do it just once a year, so don't miss out for that tonight. And then, of course, there's things behind me. Sorry, I didn't know I had visuals. Thanks, Tim. Gosh, Tim, you're so good. Better than me here. So we're also kicking off the VASD program. We're going to have our first visiting artist for our pattern series. We're so excited to be hosting 2 artists working under the name Future Retrieval. Their artist talk is next Tuesday, the 17th, in the Mary Harris Auditorium. Be sure to join us for that. And then next Thursday, September 19th, we have 2 exhibitions opening on campus. We have the biennial faculty and staff exhibition in the Philip J. Steele Gallery. So you all get to see work made by the faculty and staff here at RMCAD. And then also opening the same night is the exhibition Navigating Diversity, Identity, and Religion in Public Space, which will be a really interesting exhibition. That'll be opening next Thursday as well. Both exhibitions, that'll be in the Rotunda building, the Rotunda Gallery. Both of those exhibitions open next Thursday the 19th from 4 to 7. And then last but not least, more opportunities to network with industry professionals about part-time, full-time employment, internships, freelance opportunities. We have for upcoming 2 employer info sessions next week. Sherman Williams will be in the cafe. I think we decided in the cafe next Tuesday the 17th from 1:30 to 2:30, so over the lunch hour. So stop in with them if you're looking for a gig. And then also the Anchorage School District will be able to learn more about opportunities with them virtually. We're meeting with them on Wednesday, September 18th at 4 p.m. Tons of good stuff, right? That's just over the next couple of weeks. So we look forward to seeing you all there. Thanks so much for being here. Let's give it up for JC one more time. I don't know where he went. He's on to the next thing. All right, thanks everybody. We'll see you next time.